Okay, Assalamu alaikum. So we are here with the chapter 4, numerical descriptive measurement, or maybe sometime it is called as the measure of central tendency. So in this chapter, we are going to discuss about the measuring or finding the central point in the data. So that data central point is actually called sometime as the measurement of central tendency for the data, and we actually can find the data central point in the ungrouped data and the grouped data. The measurement of the central tendency also tell about the distribution of the data, which we'll take to discuss in the next week, but today we are trying to actually discuss about the measurement of the central tendency in the grouped and the ungrouped data. So the first of all that we need to understand that whatever the data point or the data we have, we are very much interested to understand the central point of the data. The central point can be describe the data, or it can help us to understand the distribution of the data. So there are three type of the measurement of the central point in the statistics that we are going to cover in this chapter. One is called as mean, second is called as median, and the third is called as mode. So firstly, we discuss about the ungrouped data, how we can find, understand and evaluate the mean, median and mode in the ungrouped data. So we understand the ungrouped data, that is data available to us and there is no grouping that is available, and we only rely on the data in their natural form and the frequency they have. So mean is the first measure of the central point or the central distribution of the data. So it can be measured as actually a summation or total of all the data point that available to us, and divide by the number of the items or number of the data point in the data. So it means all the data point must be summed and then divided by the number of data points. It gives us the sample mean, or the simple we can call as a mean. So the formula that is provided to us, that is x bar. X bar is called as the mean of the x mean the numbers, is equal to summation. So that is sign used for the summation. It is the sum total of the x mean all the data point from the sample divided by the n. It is a small n, so it represents the number of the sample. So x bar, or the mean for a sample, is equal to sum totaling all the data point that are we are taking from the sample and then divided by the number of the sample. So it provide us or come us with the sample mean. Sometime we have the census and we have the population, so then we can able to find a population mean as well. But again, keep in mind that in chapter 1 we discuss about the population and mean. They are two different things. So population mean is equal to mu. Mu is actually a representation for the sample mean. So it is the sum total of the population and then divided by the capital N. Capital N mean all the data point in the population. So again, the formula remains same, but the understanding is vary, because in the sample there are small number of the data point, but in the population there is a large number of the data point available. So sometime it's possible that we actually evaluate the sample mean, and if the large population is there, so we can actually evaluate the population mean. But formula remains same, but again the small n represent the sample number and the capital N represent the population number. So there is an example that we have some data available for the room air conditioner and their prices are provided in the example. So there are 7 price available to us. So the price are 500, 840 with different brand, 470, 480, 420, 440 and 440. So there are two actually prices that are to 440, and there is the least or the less price, that is 420, and the highest price is 840. For the calculation of the mean, simply we actually take the sum, or you can say we total all the prices available. So the 7 prices available to us, so we make a total of it: 500, 840, 470, 480, 420, 440 and 440. So the total is 3590, and then divided by the number of the prices. So number of prices, it means we have 7 prices. So 3590 divided by 7, so we have the price of 512.9. it is the mean price of the air condition for a room air conditioner that are available to us. So very simple, that we can actually measure the mean for a sample, that is sum totaling all the data points that are available divided by the number of the data point. So it gives us the mean for the ungrouped data. So there is another example you can try, and otherwise we can actually take it in the class. Another measure of central point is the median. Median is sometimes called as the middle value or the middle data point. So median is the value that lies at the center of the data. So again, we need to actually arrange the data, that find out how many data values are there and what is the central value. But again, it's a bit different for the odd number of the data entries and the even number of the data entry. Sometime when there is a odd number means not divided by 2. So when there is a number of entries that are 5, 7, 9, it's much easier to actually find out the middle value. But when there is a even number like 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 and similarly, which is able to divide by the 2, so then the finding of the median is a bit different. So there are example for the odd number, and there is another example for the even number. How we can do it? For the similar example of the air conditioning, so the data is there: 500, 840, 470, 480, 420, 440 and 440. So first of all, to find a median for the ungrouped data, we need to arrange the data from the lowest value to the highest value. So for this specific case, it is 420, that is the lowest value. It means we start arranging the data with 420, then 440, 440, 470, 480, 500 and 840. Because there are 7 value, it means the number of the data point is odd. So we can point the central value as the median. So here we can identify the central value is 470. So for the ungrouped data, so we can easily find the central value of 470 as the median price for the air condition price, and that is 470. So mean is 520, 512.9, and the median for the data is 470. Okay, so there is another example. You can actually calculate the median. Okay, again there is another example of the finding a median with the even data. It means the data that is divided by 2. It means 6 values, 8 values, 10 values. In the similar example, we found that the data points may be reduced from 7 to 6. It means the data point that, for example, this example quoted that 480 price of the air condition is eliminated, not available in the market. So we left with from 7 to only 6 data values, that is 420, 440, 440, 470, 500 and 840. It means 800, 440. It become the even. So what to do to find a median? Take the central 2 values. So here, because there are 6 values, the central 2 values is 440 and 470. So we actually take out 440 plus 470 divided by 2, then actually give us a median. So for odd values, the median is calculated by taking out the central value, 2 central value divided by 2. And for odd, it is actually quite easy. So just pick the central value that come in center for all the data point. So for this specific example, 440 plus 470 divided by 2 come 455. So in the previous example, when the odd value is there, so then it is 470 the median. Here when the even values are there, so it become 455. But still keep in mind it giving the idea of the central point or the central price of the air conditioning. So try to consider the mean for this data is 512.9. The mean with the odd values is 470 and the median with the even number is 455. Okay. So there is an example, you can actually do it, or maybe you can consider it in the class. Okay. Another type of the central value calculation that is called as mode. So the mode is actually the most repeated the value that have the highest frequency in the data. So most repeated or the highest frequency remains same. So it's quite possible when there is no value that is repeating itself, so it become we don't have any mode in the data. And sometime, so there are more than one value. If there is one value that occur more than one or three times more than or highest time, so it becomes the mode. But sometime there are more than one value that can exist that are repeated multiple time, so it become bimodal. It means there are two mode available. So we can take one example for the same example for the data that we have for the air conditioning price with the 7 data point. So the most repeated value in this data is 440. It means there that price occurs twice. It means that is more frequency, so it becomes the mode for the example with the ungrouped data and finding a mode. But sometime if the values is not repeating, so we can say there is no mode available. But again there are some values who are repeating at the same time but more than one, so it can be possible that we have more than one mode available. So we discuss about the mean, median and the mode. So mean is actually taking the sum of all the data points that are available divided by the number of the data point, so it gives us a mean. And then the median is actually the central value. So we need to arrange the data and we take the central point. And when we are actually having the odd value, so it is simply the central value that comes at 357. But if it is a even value, so actually we take the central 2 value divided by 2 and then actually we find the median. But in the mode we are actually going for the number of the frequency or repetition that a number is present. If there is no repetition, it means there is no mode available, and when the repeated values are there, it means that become mode. But they possibly there are two values that are repeated at the same time, so we can actually have a two mode available in the data. So this is good for the group data. But sometime we have non-group data, sorry. So sometime we have the group data we discussed in the last chapter, where we need to make the class boundaries and these kind of things. So it means we need to actually find how we can find the mean, median and mode for these kind of the group data. So for the group data we need to actually count the midpoint of the classes and frequency of the classes. So it means it give us the frequency of the classes. It means again how many times a number is present within a class, and then actually divided by the number of the entries, or again uses total sample number. So for example we take the this example. So there are actually the people who are spending on the internet. This is the same example we use in the chapter 3. So the frequency is there with the classes. So all 50 data point are distributed in 6 classes. How to take the mean for this data? So firstly we need to actually take the data midpoint So we take the data midpoint, and then actually the frequency multiplied by the midpoint. So it actually give us fx. Fx mean frequency multiplied by the central point of the class. So then actually sum total of the fx, it means the frequency multiplied by the midpoint. So we need to take a total of it divided by the number of the sample. So here in this example, the total number of data point or frequency is 50, and when we multiply the f by x, it means the frequency multiplied by the midpoint. So the total is 2117 divided by the 50. So the mean for this group data is 42.34 minutes, that every person who are using the internet, so at average or at a mean time they are using for 42 minutes 34 seconds from the 50 data point that are available to us. So there is another example, so you can take try this example in your own time. So it means first of all you need to take the data midpoint or the class midpoint, and then multiply frequency with the midpoint, and then actually take the sum of it, and the formula is summation of fx. It means we need to sum total all the frequency multiply by the mid data point and divide by the number of the data point. So here the data points are 4. We need to take the midpoint, then multiply the midpoint with the frequency, then sum total and divide by the number of the frequency. Similarly, when we have the group data, how we can find the median? So finding a median with the group data is actually taking the same kind of the understanding that we have previously. So first of all, we have the data. So in the same example, the 50 people that are using the internet, so we have the cumulative frequency, and then actually we need to take out, so the formula is lower class boundary of the median class, then frequency of the median class. Median class means the central class where the data point or midpoint can be relied, and then we need the cumulative frequency before median class, and then divide by the class width or the class size. So here for the same example, we have the data, that is the same data that we already have for the internet user at the cumulative frequency as well. So determining, so what is n divided by 2, it means what is the central observation. So we have the total observation of 50 divided by 2, it means the 25th observation. So we go back in the table and understand where is the central observation that lie. So the second class, that is from 21 to 34, so observation cumulative frequency is 19. So we are looking for 25. So it means it comes in the third class, 35 to 48, where the cumulative goes to 32, 19 to 32. It means the 25 number of frequency lies between it. It means our central value, where the central value lie within the class of 3, which start with 35 and 48. So lower class. So lower class boundary for this class 0.15 minus, so 35 minus 0.4, so 34.5, and the highest class, that is 48.5. So what is the difference between the class, that is 48.5 minus 34.5, so 14, that is same. So what is actually the frequency of the median? minus 1. It means the cumulative frequency for the last value, that is 19, and the FM means that the frequency that is actually available in this class, that is 13, and then actually we put the value. So LM is 34.5 and plus n divided by 2, that is 25, minus 19 divided by the frequency of the class, multiply by 14, that is the class difference. So it gives us a value of 40.96. So it means the median value for the data, group data, is 40.96. So the mean value for the data is 42, and the median value for the group data for the same data is 40.96. Okay, How we find the mode? Mode mean again the repeated value, but again because it is a group data, so we don't know exactly how many values may be repeated. So that's why for the group data we have another formula to use. So this formula again based on the class boundary. So lowest class boundary plus difference between the frequency of the model, it means the central or the repeated value or highest value that have the highest frequency, and the frequency of the class before the model class, divided by the model difference between the frequency of the model class and frequency of the model class, and then divided by the class width. It means the again that is if you take the same example, so that is the 14. So this is the same example we are taking. So central or the most frequency value, it means where the highest frequency is there, that is again 35 to 48. So this is the highest group or the class where the highest frequency remain. Lower class, so again uh, minus by 0.05, so that 35 minus 0.05, so it comes the lowest class 34.5, and the class width 48.5 minus 34, it remains the 14 same. Determine the value, again you can say the frequency within the model class and the frequency before it. So it is actually 2 and 3. So it actually gives us the idea that how many models are, it is the class that is 2 and 3. It means the 3 is the middle class and before it that is the second class. So then actually putting the value, so the lowest class value for this is 34.5 plus, so the 2 plus 2 plus 3 multiplied by 14, that is the class difference. So the mode value for the group data is 40.10. Okay, so this is all for the this week. So we'll be discussing about the next how to actually measure the different measure of the position, that is quartile, decile and percentile, in the next session. So that's all for the day. I will be uploading some question for you so that you can actually try it at your own time. Thank you. Take care. Assalamu alaikum. Goodbye.